Ignition sequence start. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Liftoff. We have a liftoff.
Hey everybody, this is the Digital Asset Investor, and this is Meta Lawman, and he has his theory on Gary. What's going to happen to Gary Gensler if he does not, if Biden does not win?
He thinks Gensler is going to be out. I'm not sure if that's going to happen, but that's a possibility because he's got these, bad optics.
This is where people disagree with me. There are a significant number of politicians like Elizabeth Warren and Joe Biden who believe that the anti-crypto vote is larger than the pro-crypto vote, or they wouldn't be doing what they're doing. So we think that he's got all these black marks against him, where there are a lot of people that are cheering him on to crack down more on crypto. It's odd for a sitting senator when she declares, I am running for re-election to the Senate, in that speech to say, I'm building an anti-crypto army. Gary's intent, everybody says his dream job is to be the Secretary of the Treasury. Right. So if Biden is reelected, it's possible. It depends what happens in the Senate.
I kind of disagree in a way, and here's why. I think the people that are currently in power have been doing multiple things over and over and over that are very against the will of the people, and they don't seem to care. When I was growing up, they always seemed to care. They would change their tune based on what the sentiment was, but they don't do that anymore. It's almost as if they believe they don't need American votes anymore. It's almost as if they're letting people in at the border left and right because they're just going to give those people a vote and give them a bunch of freebies to buy their vote, and that they don't think they need at least most of the Americans, and that they believe that the core of their base will vote for them no matter what. So the core of their base plus all the people they let in illegally and then bought their vote by giving them a bunch of free stuff, I think that's what they think. And it's sick, and it ought to be treason, and they ought to go to prison for it, if not worse. But it's being allowed, at least for now. Now, Standard Custody retweeted the Ripple tweet, and they said, we are pleased to announce that we have entered an agreement to be acquired by Ripple. Look forward to this next chapter, focusing on what we do best, building enterprise-grade solutions for customers. Learn more. Now, I wanted to show you, this is a clip of Brad Garlinghouse when they had purchased Medico, but that Medico's outside of the U.S., so the same thing that he's saying here now applies in the U.S. with Standard Custody that they've just bought.
The macro environment around custody digital assets is expected to be close to $10 trillion by the year 2030. And inevitably, people are going to need a place to store those assets, and safe, secure, and they're going to need to be able to transfer them as well, having good on and off ramps, even a tokenization engine. Some of the work Ripple is doing around central bank digital currencies or CBDCs. So we think there's a lot of pieces that come together, and we already had, and I remember when you and I first spoke, I remember being on a call with one of the largest top 10 banks in the world, and a bank Ripple was already working with, and they were asking us about could we help them with their custody. This is prior to the Medico acquisition, and we weren't in a position to do that. And so when we think about that synergy, the ability to say to that existing Ripple customer, hey, here's a best-in-class, going head-to-head time and time again and winning on the custody level, to be able to bring that product to them, I think is a great opportunity for the two companies together. So,
and now they can say the same thing in the U.S. of A. Now, this was a Ripple Medico conversation a little while back, about a month ago, but this is an interesting 29-second clip about the significance of custody.
We tend to say that custody of digital assets is about protecting the keys, It's about protecting the access to the keys through governance, decentralizing the access, and it's about integrating into the existing flows. Once you understand that custody in digital asset is an enabler for everything else, it's an enabler that you need to do the value-added services and to really start having the excitement of what blockchain and tokenization can be about, you can start focusing on the other questions which are around the distribution of new forms of assets.
There you go, distribution of new forms of assets. Then we've got Anthony Pompano, who is fully aware of how much better XRP is than Bitcoin. We have his tweets to prove it, who continues on his, what I think is almost like a military operation, like he's working for the government to continue towing the Bitcoin line. Here he goes. And it's not a coincidence that the mainstream media is teeing him up left and right. That's not by accident.
All right, folks, so Bitcoin actually hit 50,000 today.
The same mainstream media that will not cover ETHgate at all.
It says Bitcoin ETFs are sounding an alarm. I'm going to bring in Pomp Investments investor, Anthony Pompano. And Pomp, you say, that these Bitcoin ETFs, they're sounding the alarm. At first, it felt like everyone, including yourself, were really enthused about it. Did they not go off right? What's the hitch?
The alarm's good for Bitcoiners. If you think about what's happening right here, Wall Street's getting an intelligence test. If you paid attention in Economics 101, you're going to pass this test. There is hundreds of millions of dollars per day flowing into these Bitcoin ETFs, and there is only about $40 to $45 million of net new Bitcoin being produced. So there's 12 and a half times more demand than there is supply being created every single day. If there's that much demand and that little supply, the price has got to go up to accommodate everyone. And so my guess is that we're about to see Bitcoin continue to grind up over the next couple of weeks.
So that's the structural buildup for this next big move.
Correct.
So what's holding it back then?
Well, the Bitcoin's not being held back, right? I mean, It was at 47 and went down to 40,000 because everyone was dumping GBTC. Now, all of a sudden, we're back to 50,000. I think 50,000 is a psychological level as well. People get really excited. They say, hey, we're going back towards all-time highs. And as soon as Bitcoiners start saying it, somehow it usually happens.
It does, right? Now, you say you've got the next big bet. Share that with us.
Yeah, so if you look at what happened with the Bitcoin ETF, right? Bitcoin is an asset. It's now been accepted within Wall Street, and now people want to get access. And so we have these Bitcoin ETF issuers. I think that the next big run of equities is going to end up being in altcoin ETFs. And what I mean by that is forget which coin or which protocol.
Oh, he's been activated to start talking about altcoins. Let me guess. He's going to start pumping ETH now.
Altcoin ETF issuers, I think, are going to have a great run over the next 2 years. I've made 3 bets here. I invested in Bitwise. I invested in a company called 21 Shares. And then the only publicly traded company is something called DeFi Technologies. And all 3 of these, they basically want to give people exposure to assets. They don't care which one you pick. They just want to make sure that it's easier for you to put money into this ecosystem in this industry. And I think all 3 will do well.
So a big thing with the ETF, the spot ETFs was general acceptance, not just Wall Street, but Wall Street kind of giving it the veneer of acceptance. So you're watching the Super Bowl, you couldn't help but see Jack Dorsey in there with Beyonce and Jay-Z with the Satori shirt
Almost
on.
like Jack Dorsey was planted there.
I don't know what this was about, but I saw President Biden now. He's got the laser eyes. I don't know if that has anything to do with Bitcoin, but the bottom.
Folks, did you notice something about Jack Dorsey? He wasn't speaking to anybody. Everybody around him was just sitting there and nobody was talking to him. He was not talking to anybody. He looked extremely uncomfortable. He was literally put by some of the biggest pop stars with his Satoshi t-shirt on. You want government psyop? I give you government psyop.
I know is generally, do you think that it's starting to reheat? Because there was this massive sort of, hey, everyone was talking about it, then it kind of fell apart. And when that happens, a lot of folks who are not necessarily intelligent, into these things, they walk away and never come back. It feels like they're coming back.
The beauty of Bitcoin is that it's a decentralized organization. There is no CEO, there's no board of directors, and there is no marketing team, but price is the marketing campaign.
Oh, there's a marketing team. There's been one for 10 years. You're a part of it, Anthony.
The price goes up, more people talk about it. We're talking about it here today. More investors start to pay attention. They put capital in, and has this positive, reflexive kind of mechanism, which will drive the price higher and higher, which gets more people talking about it, and that's what leads to the outperformance.
Right. So what's the all-time high?
The all-time high is $69,000. The most entertaining outcome of course, is exactly what's going to happen.
Now, folks, don't get me wrong. I own 1.5 Bitcoin in my iTrustCapital IRA. I've told you this before. I do believe Bitcoin is going to go up. My question is just how long they let it go up and when they shut this thing down. When and if. They may allow it as long. I mean, I know that they're sending it into these ETFs because then they can control it. So my question is, do they allow it to live long term or not? That's the question. And make no mistake, they can kill this thing when they're ready. You know how I know? Because I know Homeland Security knows who the 4 Satoshis are. You uncover the real Satoshi, you destroy the whole concept of Bitcoin and its supposed immaculate conception. Check this out. Uphold is proud to be sponsoring XRP Las Vegas again. They said, see you there. Now, I want to show you this clip. Actually, you know what? I'm going to ditch this clip because I want to go to what I really wanted to talk about. I'm going to talk about this. Hodor just showed back up. Okay? Hodor was one of the staples when I first got into this community. He was there, and he was one of the major presences. And in fact, at the time, in that I think it was 2018, 2019 time period, he was the only person in social media, besides maybe Tiffany Hayden, who had any communication that I was aware of at that time with Ripple themselves. Okay, and Brad Garlinghouse had mentioned his name at one point too. Hodor, not his name. Whatever his real name is, nobody knows. But anyway, so he disappeared, and I don't remember when he disappeared. But there were many things that he said. I always thought he was a very smart guy and knew what he was talking about. And he said a lot of things that I thought were very interesting. He always spoke almost like he knew things, if you know what I mean. So what I'm going to do in DAIXRP.com is I'm going to take you back and show you some of those things. For those of you that weren't here especially, you'll find this very interesting. He said many things that, we didn't just show up here and start talking about the IMF and big picture things like that, folks. We didn't just show up here and talk about XRP being a world reserve currency, and those kind of phrases and thoughts didn't just happen, folks. There were people out there who were very smart people who seemed to be in the know. There are a lot of people, and then Ripple themselves were saying things like that. We didn't just come up with this because we wanted to be hypey. Or in fact, many of us, like myself, showed up because we were hearing those kind of words, and we were seeing Ripple say these kind of things, and we showed up because we were like, wait a minute, this isn't what ordinary people, ordinary companies talk about. This is not what this is. This is something that's 1 in 100 or 200 years. So I'm going to show you that. Then I'm going to show you something that a lot of people have forgotten, or maybe you don't even know about it, about who is working with Brad Garlinghouse and things like that. Things from way back when. I'm going to show you something else. I'm the digital asset investor. I'm not an investment advisor. This is for entertainment purposes only. Please subscribe, hit the like button, tell your friends and family. Here we go.